Alrighty, folks. So for those who don't know, my name is Austin Nelson. I'm gonna hop right into this because I only have four minutes, and I could talk for far too long. So the first question is: are the sessions you watched similar to what you imagined a counseling session to be? Yes. And I feel a little bit guilty because I kind of not cheated, but I've been to counseling myself a few times, so I've seen behind the curtain, if that makes any sense. And yes, it is exactly what I expected it to be. Obviously, they're actors on video, so at times it seemed a little bit clunky, but yes, generally it is what I expected. And then the next question in the prompt is from your readings in chapter 8 and 9, what skills and counseling characteristics did you notice? Interestingly enough, I actually noticed quite a few. I noticed back channeling, paraphrasing, goal setting, summarization. For example, with back channeling in the first video, the counselor had a lot of nonverbal back channeling. You can see he was leaning forward in an attentive posture with his hands like this and really nodding intently and kind of every once in a while saying mm-hmm or yes, showing clear agreement. And that was a back channeling non-verbally. That was back channeling non-verbally, showing the client that yes, I'm here, I hear you, I see you, yes, I agree. I saw a lot of paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is a great way to check understanding. So what I noticed would happen is the client would talk for a minute or two and kind of not necessarily ramble, but just speak about the question that the counselor asked, and then the counselor at the end would kind of streamline that process and say, okay, so you said this, what I'm hearing is this, is that correct? So paraphrasing is a wonderful way to check understanding. I noticed a lot of goal setting. Both sessions ended with a bit of, okay, so I'm happy you're here. I'm glad you said that. What are we going to do for next week? And so an example of this would be in the end of the second video, the counselor had the woman pick 2 events she was going to do and invite somebody to one of them. That could be an action step and a goal. And then with summarization, obviously. The theoretical framework orientation that I noticed was probably be cognitive behavioral therapy, and I don't know. I just really, in my opinion, saw a lot of the tenets of CBT, and I believe that this week's text, or the text for this class, supports that. Obviously, you know the book. It is Introduction to Counseling by Robin Simmons, Stacey Lilly, and Anita Coonley, and I believe that page 31 has a good definition of CBT in action. It says, although the approaches are quite diverse, they do share these attributes: a collaborative relationship between the client and the therapist, a focus on changing cognitions to produce desired changes and effects in behavior, an active and directive stance by the therapist. I think we saw all of those things at play in the video, especially the first one, when it talked about streamlining our thought processes and not being overwhelmed, and rewiring how stimulus affect our emotions and that kind of stuff, and changing behavior that way, which I saw especially in the first video. Which counselor would be better for me? I think the second one. I'm not entirely sure why I think that. I just liked maybe the sound of his voice or his posture. I don't know, but I thought that he was helpful, and he would help me if I needed counseling. And finally, the question I would ask, the question I kind of popped in my mind is, after I labeled the approach as cognitive behavioral therapy, how would things look different if the therapist or a counselor took a different approach? So maybe if instead of using cognitive behavioral therapy like they did, what if they used existential theory as their framework, or maybe narrative counseling, and talked about how these things fit in the narrative of the person's life. So that's all I have this week, and I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. Thanks.